Hey there, RecLess fans. This is Shane. We're excited to announce our first ever RecLess meetup. If you're a fan of RecLess or you're a guest and you'd like to come out and talk to some of the hosts or see the guests or pick up your cool shirts, your RecLess shirts, come find us at Stats Brew Pub, 300 Marietta Street, Suite 100, Atlanta, Georgia, Tuesday, October 8th at 6 p.m. Now, if you didn't get a chance to order a shirt, that means you're not following us on our socials. What are you doing, guys? Come follow us on our socials. Watch all of our shenanigans. Find out about cool shit like our meetup and our shirts. So start following us on social media. All right, guys, back to the show.
Welcome to Season 3 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country who are joined by a surprise guest each episode. We're glad you're here. We hope you enjoy the ride. This is RecLess.
All right, welcome to episode 4, season 4 of RecLess.
Season 4?
3?
This is definitely not season 4.
Wow, time flies.
And it is the 4th episode. I got one of those things right. So
each season is only 3 episodes.
And we'll keep all this because Hannah loves to embarrass me. But this is season 3. I'm jumping ahead. But it is episode 4. And overall, it's episode 47. So welcome to RecLess, everybody. I am by far the worst introer and staying on brand. My name is Shane Mize. These are my two buddies, Tom and Jay. Tom, Jay, how y'all doing?
I wish it wasn't episode 4 and it was really like 5 and you just messed up the season and the episode number.
Just brutal.
I'm better now. You always have a way to make me smile.
That's good. That's good. So I'm excited for the guest that I have for y'all today. But before we do that, we always have a bit of a question back and forth. And this one I already kind of alluded to talking to y'all pre-show, but we'll expand on it, I'm sure. So what is one daily ritual that you can't do without? Happens every day. And I'll give you a set to think about it. I'll go first. I am a researcher. I'm a writer. Some people that know me well aren't surprised by that. People that don't know me very well are usually pretty surprised by that. I have a bunch of journals. I write in a bunch of stuff, whether it's my Remarkable or my paper tablets. I have a bunch old journals that I've had. I love to research things. Some of the stuff I'm writing down is what I've researched. Some of the stuff from books that I've read or thoughts. I'm a pretty creative person. I got frustrated the other night on something not related to this podcast, believe it or not, and started writing around midnight and didn't finish till 5 a.m. Didn't get a great night's sleep that night, but I sometimes rage write. But I'm a writer. I'm a researcher. I'm a writer. I always have some sort of pen, paper, Remarkable, notebook, something on me. I'm always trying to capture whatever I've thought or heard or what someone else has said and try to capture it so I can think on it later and kind of filter it through my thought process and interpret it. And even though I think most people would have guessed beef sticks or steak or monsters, all those are definitely daily rituals, probably more vices. None of those are necessarily cardiac approved. But I couldn't imagine, I can go a day without a steak, and believe it or not, I could probably go a day without a monster, but it'd be tough for me to believe I could go a day without writing. So that's definitely my ritual.
My goal is to capture your Remarkable one day and just hide it so you can't have it and see how you react.
You should probably try to find some of these journals I've written in over the years.
Yeah,
but I know how much you keep that Remarkable like on your hip, so you would be lost without it to some degree.
You're absolutely right. This Remarkable comes with a pin that only works with the Remarkable.
I'll just take the pen.
I lost the pin last week, and I ran down to another staff member who also uses Remarkable, and I'm commandeering it. Today you don't get to use your Remarkable. I have to use this pen until I can find it. It took me like half a day to find where I'd place my pen. So yeah, you're right. I would have a panic attack. So what you got? Which one of you wants to go next? A daily ritual, something you could not do a day without,
I
or in
can go. I
theory.
mean, mine is quite simple. I get up every morning. I'm either in the gym or out for a run. And if I don't have some sort of fitness activity in the morning, I feel lost. My day is just shot. I feel like lethargic. It wakes me up. It's like just what gets me going in the day. So we completely retrofitted our gym during COVID, or I'm sorry, our garage into a gym during COVID. So we got a full setup in the garage. We didn't never once parked our car in the garage. Car stays parked outside, and I'm either, like I said, hitting the pavement for a run, a walk, or in the gym every morning, usually by 6 a.m., 6:30 at the
Yeah,
latest.
you're an early riser too, right?
I am now. I never was prior to COVID. Like,
Gotcha.
because we used to go to the gym and get in the car and drive places, and now, it's so nice to be able to just wake up and go outside. But I'm an early riser now. I never was. I used to be a night owl. I still kind of stay up late too, but I definitely get up a lot earlier than I ever thought I would. But that's thanks to my wife, who has always been a early riser.
Have you created bad habits in your own personal gym that if you ever go to a commercial gym, like are you hogging all the equipment? Is because like I would think I have a gym in my garage and it makes it where if I ever go and I don't lift like I used to, but if I ever go into the actual gym, like I want to sit on a device all day and sit between sets and it makes me a worse gym attendee because I've developed my own bad habits.
Probably pull out your journal while you're in the
Take my
middle of
shirt off
sets.
in the middle of a take my shirt off in the middle of they're
Oh,
like, what are you
yeah. I
doing? I'm
mean,
writing stuff down. I'm like, yeah,
being
barefoot,
able to play the music I want in the gym, like it's just, yeah,
smoking a
I can't
cigar. I smoke cigars a
imagine
lot in my
not.
In
gym.
the gym.
That's right.
Yeah, man. Now we're getting off track.
Yeah, my bad.
Tom, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, Jay, very similar. There's parts of my day that I need to get myself right to feel like I'm ready to go. And I think, I'm not a coffee person, but I always got to start my day off and pretty much end my day with a glass of water. And that's just kind of it's audible, right? Like that's the first thing I
You
reach
drink water
for.
before you go to bed?
Yeah. Yep. Usually have a glass and then I fill up the water bottle, put it on the nightstand just in case I wake up in the
Crazy.
middle of the night. And so anyway, I won't go with that. I guess this is more of a useless fact or something to the effect of your journaling, but I I really grew up around sports. We've already talked all about that. So people back in the day, there's people who were newspaper people, right? And they would jump to a certain section.
Hmm.
And so for me, I struggle with world news and I struggle with the negative. So my news is sports. I have the Score is the app that literally when I wake up in the morning after I have water, like that's what I'm doing. I just want to see what I missed from the night. The funny thing about it is I don't really talk about sports with anybody. It's more of a therapeutic
Hmm.
piece of my life. It just makes me happy. I like numbers. I'm not even the guy who watches sports. There's people out there who, I know that there's people who maybe the John Stutzmans of the world are watching every Twins game. I don't really watch Braves games. I don't really watch every football game. I really enjoy just reading about it the next morning, like what happened, what are the stats, what are the storylines, and so yeah, I guess it's somewhat therapeutic to me. It's something that I do every day without really thinking about it, and I don't really even talk about it with people.
I am so far off the sports world from time to time. Like we were doing our stupid fantasy draft. Was that last night? That all y'all, I think, did all y'all just auto draft, it seemed like. And actually, I saw Jay hopping in and out.
I was in and
I
out.
Oh, gotcha.
I've never auto drafted I've been in fantasy leagues for since high school. So 25 years, before high school.
Yeah.
And then last night was the first time I've actually ever auto drafted. And I did pop in for like 5 minutes here or there to see where I was at.
I hate fantasy football. Y'all make me play. I participated in every round, and ESPN has already given me a C for my draft. So they're already shaming me.
I
But I
don't
was
think
sitting
anyone
there.
makes you play.
I feel like it.
I,
I don't know
I,
how to get out of this league.
I mean,
I
you
get a
can
link.
quit,
I
but
actually tried.
Just find
I
the,
someone
was
else.
I was in Missouri City. I get a text from you knuckleheads. Hey, the draft started. I told you I wasn't doing it, and here I am in a draft, and I'm drafting in the back of a city council meeting one night.
You do it every year, and you cannot tell me if you got out of it that you wouldn't have FOMO.
I don't have FOMO on hardly anything.
I'm
I
not
am
saying you do
so
now.
rare on
I'm
FOMO.
not saying you have it now. I'm saying if a year went by and there continues to be text chains about it and you're not in it and there's text chains, you would 100% be like, man, I might hate those guys and I might hate fantasy, but I do miss it.
I don't know. The YPN chat, I haven't checked on it in like 3 months. So that's pretty. Hannah's always telling me. I would just add Hannah to y'all's chat. That's all I do.
Well, we've talked about it before. You could hate fantasy football, but there's nothing better than beating Jay in a head-to-head matchup, right?
That's true. I screenshot it every time.
Knocking him out of the
You,
playoffs.
That's true.
you knocked me out of the playoffs last year, and it was
true.
like you thought you won the Super Bowl.
That's true. I actually thought that's all I had to do. I was the boss at the end of the level.
You are officially retiring because you hit
That's right.
your winning moment in life.
That's right. Well, our poor guest has suffered enough. Although the name that they put Ruckus is their fantasy name for their teams. So there's hint number one.
I don't think we have someone named Ruckus in our league, so they're not in our league.
Not in the league. No. I consider them fortunate. So I've got my clues grouped in some categories. Contrary
They
to
may take
popular-
your spot.
Yeah, for sure. Contrary to popular belief from my open today, I am trying to get better at this. So I have my clues into 3 categories. Category 1, speaking. So this person's an incredible speaker, and both of y'all have heard this person speak, and potentially not in a session. Their sessions are great. I have said before that they could read their grocery list and they would get 5 stars. They're just one of those really talented speakers. But I think there's just as strong a chance you heard them speak in a different capacity. So that's a clue. Not much of a clue, I get it, but I think you'll figure out what I'm talking about later. Jay met this person, in person at least, with me and a couple other folks at a dinner in St. Louis. Tom, I don't know when you first met this person, but you've had conversations with this person as well. And speaking of speaking, I've actually had this person come and speak to my staff in person. They have done keynotes. They've done the state tours and the keynote tours as well. So they're one of those well-traveled folks. So that's clue grouping number 1.
Okay.
All right.
I think I know who it is.
Clue grouping number 2. They are well-traveled. First of all, they are working on right now trying to visit all the national parks. I think they're early in that process, but that's their next goal. I say next goal because their last goal they had just recently accomplished, which was touring every baseball facility.
Pretty sure I have an idea.
And if you go into their office, you'll see a ball from every stadium. They're also well-traveled as a park and rec professional. They've worked in 4 states over the years.
Are they currently not a park and recreation professional?
Yeah, that's correct. Although it's probably tough for them to admit that. They've worked in Arizona, Michigan, Illinois, and Texas. I think y'all both may know who it is by now.
JM?
Yeah, those are initials. Is that what you're thinking as well, Jay?
Yeah.
I'm not getting much of a head nod from Jay, but I think
Yeah. No, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry,
Okay.
I thought I did.
no, yeah, you had nodded earlier, but I wouldn't get anything late.
This person also shares my passion for Capra.
Yeah. So y'all definitely know who it is. So I'll wrap this up. They are a mentor of mine, and I speak with this person often. They're also a huge Working Genius fan, and they're my former boss. They are currently the ACM, the Assistant City Manager for the City of Missouri City, Jason Mangum. Welcome aboard.
Jason, welcome.
What's
Well,
up,
hey.
buddy?
fellas?
There he is.
How's
So-
it going?
It's going great. How are you?
What's going on?
I'm well. I'm well. Things are going good. Things are busy, but things are wonderful. So good to see y'all.
Good to
I
see
did
you
not know
too.
I didn't know the baseball history and passion. That's awesome.
I saw a recent post about that, I believe, that you shared, and I do the same thing with baseball stadiums. Even if they're minor league, I always get a ball, but I'm probably up to maybe a dozen, so doesn't compare to your experience. So that's great.
Yeah, my last stadium was Oakland, and I had to get it before they
Yeah.
left town. So I did the thing that any good husband would do, and we took our 25th anniversary trip to Oakland so that I could pick up my last stadium. So
what's that's the
Awesome.
platinum? Is that the platinum anniversary? Oh, that's funny. Well, I've wanted to have Jason on for a while.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways this will go. Obviously, he supervised me, so I'm sure y'all would love to find out more about how terrible that was and working genius. But I specifically was very interested post this storm season because it's not something we've talked about very often, but it's something I experienced in Missouri City. It's something Jason experienced in Missouri City a couple times. But the resiliency of a city in a storm situation and what roles Parks and Rec professionals and city government professionals, to be honest, take on in that role, in that recovery effort. And so, Jason, talk to us a little bit about the latest hurricane. It definitely hit Missouri City. It seemed like it hit Missouri City as hard as it hit any of your even just most closest surrounding neighbors as far as just logistics and how long at times y'all were out of electricity. And I think more so, me and you went through one together and you stayed. And I looked at you at one point and said, I'm never doing this again. And we fixed our house and we found an opportunity and we left. But I don't know if everyone knows, even when they're in one of these coastal towns, that will be their job until that storm hits.
Yeah, absolutely. Hurricane Beryl, it's interesting because people, if you're not living it, right, you hear about it on the news, you see it, there's going to be posts about it, and then people forget about it. And we are almost 2 months post Hurricane Beryl. And let me tell you what I was doing after work yesterday. I was cleaning up fence pickets out of my yard. Our storm debris cleanup is still going on in Missouri City. We have the contractors that are still going around picking up whether it's vegetative debris or construction debris from either mostly fences, but also some roofs and things like that. So, it's not something that's just like in the news. It's big news until the next thing is big news. This is something that we have to live until we're post recovery. And we're not even close to post recovery now. I would say that, any major storm like this has really three phases. You have the crisis management. That's what we're doing immediately after the storm passes or during the storm to try to make sure those essential services are up. This was a windstorm, so we either have windstorms or flooding storms. This one was a windstorm, so we had a lot of power outages and then a lot of debris, a lot of tree debris and roof debris and fence debris. So you have that immediate crisis management, and then you have short-term recovery and then long-term recovery. And I would say we're just getting to the point where we're looking at long-term recovery. And when we're short-term recovery is that cleanup, and then long-term recovery is how do we make ourselves better for the next one? How do we make ourselves more resilient for the next one? What do we need to do in the way of generators, or what do we need to do in the way of making sure that our infrastructure is basically to the point where we can recover faster? Because that's the goal every time, is to being able to recover from a storm quicker and better than you did the last one. And so that's kind of where we're at right now, is we're looking at, our infrastructure and our resiliency, whether it's related to flooding or our power network or generators or whatever we can do. A lot of people think, well, you're without power. Well, that's great, unless you have a lot of residents that also are unwell, because now they're without power and they're without water. And it's July and it's Houston. So we have a lot of issues when it comes to heat and humidity and different things like that. So yeah, that's, we've been living it for the last couple of months, and we continue to live it. Something that you don't always think about is if you have, for example, our golf course, we have a beautiful city center gathering place with places for events, weddings, a restaurant, which received some damage. That damage caused water to enter in the building. Then that building was without power for 10 days. So what happens when it's hot and dark and humid and muggy and wet? We had mold everywhere. By the time power came back on, the whole place was full of mold, and we had mushrooms growing on the carpet. And so we had to, we're in the process right now of gutting, one of our key facilities and trying to put it back together. So Yeah, a lot going on related to the storm, and that's like Shane said, in some areas that's that's part of what you do, regardless if you are in finance or in parks and recreation or public works or development services. Storm management, emergency management, and storm recovery is a part of everybody's job.
I can't relate very well with this, Jason. Our area here in Western New York, we might get some air quality from some wildfires in Canada, right? So that's maybe something we've dealt with. We have had the occasional tornado touchdown in areas close to us, but it's maybe due to, again, a windstorm that might last a good 24 hours, right? That you get the windstorm warning. Obviously snow, but it hasn't been that bad for us here. So for your area, let me just get this straight for our listeners. Your closest largest city is Houston, correct? About
Correct.
how far out?
We border Houston, so
okay,
Missouri City borders Houston. We're south, just directly south of Houston, and we're about 40 miles from the coast.
Okay, so I always find it fascinating when we have our guests from all of these different parts of the country, because we have a lot of guests, or I'm sorry, a lot of listeners out there and individuals in general who are always traveling the country looking for where is potentially the next location for them to pick up their profession. And so for those individuals who say, yeah, I want to go near Houston or be in the Houston area, I remember a pretty large hurricane that was there some years ago. So my question to you is, how often are you looking at this? You said it's storm recovery as a part of everybody's job. How often are you looking towards dealing with a potential hurricane or massive storm like this?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that prior to me living here I didn't really quite understand. But there is a hurricane season and there's hurricane forecasting, and so leading up to hurricane season, which typically starts on June 1st and goes through November, is when the peak hurricane season hits. You'll have different models and different agencies that are predicting what type of a hurricane season. That's for the entire Atlantic, right? So that's not only the Gulf, not only the Texas coast, but also New Orleans and Alabama and Mississippi and Florida. And then on the other side, you have, the Carolinas and whatnot. They all get hit with hurricanes. And so when you're looking at a hurricane season, you estimate the average number of major hurricanes or major storms that they anticipate. And we just know that beginning June 1st that we're going to be prepared. And so, we're tracking these things. It's not like a tornado or an earthquake, which just jumps on you, right? A week out what's going on. I mean, you go onto the National Hurricane Center and see what kind of disturbances are, in the Atlantic Ocean right now, and what they could potentially, the possibility or the likelihood is that they turn into a major storm. My first hurricane here was Hurricane Harvey, and which was a major hurricane with lots of flooding, mass destruction in the Houston area. And it was actually kind of funny because I was new to all this, and Shane was working with us at the time, and I remember he's just like, oh, I wouldn't worry about it. We get these kind of warnings all the time. This
famous last words.
I think he said, this is something emergency managers do so that they have job security.
That's right.
And then sure enough, it ends up being one of the most devastating storms that Houston's ever seen. So
you could see from the front of my house through the back of my house, thanks to that stupid storm.
And he didn't want to cancel programs because it's not going to be that much of an impact anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like Shane.
Yep.
So it was
Oracle.
And we won't mention how we flooded out one of the city vehicles that storm either. But yeah, we I don't even remember the question anymore. But it's definitely something that we look at from early on in the season. We're trying to prepare. You can't predict when or where, but you're just trying to always stay ready.
I think we'll have to save some time later for getting some dirt on past working with Shane and what that looked like and pros and cons of that. If there's any pros, I'm not sure, but we'll get into that later.
Younger Shane, who knew he could be more bold than he is now?
And wrong.
So I'm going to take it in a little bit of a different direction. When Shane did the introduction, he mentioned, you're currently sitting as an assistant city manager for Missouri City. I'm very curious on that transition. And I know we've talked to some other folks so far in different episodes. This is going to be probably a 3-part question, but I'm going to start one at a time. Is that something you had previously always thought about or pursued, or was it something that kind of fell on your lap and then you went for it?
Yeah, no, I had zero desire to be in city management. My career goal was always to be the best Parks and Recreation director on the planet. Like that was it. Simple.
Yeah.
I just never had any desire. As a matter of fact, I tell people a lot since being in this position. Says, look, I've made a really good career. I spent a lot of time not caring what other people in the city did. And I was just hyper focused on Parks and Recreation, and so I didn't do the things that a lot of aspiring city managers would do, learning the other aspects of local government and how they interact and intertwine and make cities go. I just was so hyper focused on Parks and Recreation. So it's not something that I pursued. As a matter of fact, I only about a year ago finished my certified public manager program. And there was two other Parks and Recreation professionals in my cohort. One of them, who's a great friend and has city manager aspirations, and she said, so "You really don't have any desire to be a city manager?" I'm like, none. This is like none. But going through that program and seeing the different aspects of local government, kind of, I found some things very interesting that I had never really paid attention to before. Then I was even offered an opportunity to kind of get into city management, and turned it down several years ago. So no, it was not something that I was ever pursuing.
Okay, so second part to that is, what has been the aspect that you enjoy the most that you weren't prepared for or did not know about?
Okay, well, I think maybe I kind of alluded to it. There's so many things that work together to make a city go. Learning about those aspects and how they interact and interrelate with each other has been a blast, and being able to work with other departments and learn other aspects of just, I mean, our communities, they're very unique. Every community is going to have its own unique culture and its own unique feel and environment, and there's certain aspects and elements that make all that come together. And a lot of that's in local government. A lot of that's at City Hall. And so that's kind of been, a blast for me to kind of see. I'm working with things like solid waste. And this morning I was on a phone call looking at water and wastewater utility rate studies, stuff that I had never really, I had no idea how much it went into those things. And so it's been cool to see how parks, when you're looking at a tapestry, what threads are parks, and what threads are public works, and what threads are development services, and what threads are police and fire and public safety and code enforcement and animal services. They all play a role in making something beautiful. But for me, I was so close to the tapestry, right? I could only see my colors. And when something would come into contact or interrupt my colors, I would get defensive, or I would get protective of that, not realizing that I just needed to take a step back and see what those colors do for the entire piece of art, for the entire thing. So.
Can I add to that, Jay, real quick? Just going into that, because I want to keep on this topic. I had asked Jason for 15 minutes of his time about 2-3 months ago to discuss this very topic, and he was kind enough to give me about an hour and 15 minutes. So I'll let the guests answer a question here about that exact conversation we had, and take our listeners through what it's like to say one day, I want to be the best Parks and Rec director on the planet, knowing that you go to work every day and love every moment of it. I think that a lot of Parks and Recreation professionals could probably relate to that. We've had that conversation with our spouses about how we generally really love what we do and going to work every day, and that's not the case for everybody. So my concern in that transition is, now I'm going to be going from, and Farrell said this, we're going from being the most favorite and loved department in the city or the municipality to potentially a position where you're not necessarily always going to be liked. So how did that transition work for you? How did you navigate the piece of getting up, going to work every day, knowing a little bit more of what you're going to go into, being very, very excited about it? I'm not saying you aren't now, but how did you get to a point where maybe you are?
Yeah. So to me, it's just all about perspective. When I was first presented this idea of becoming an assistant city manager, my initial response was thank you, but no thank you, because I've always kind of had this same mindset. Well, I went home and I was talking to my wife, who's much smarter than I am, as I'm sure most of our wives are, and told her about the opportunity. And she's like, "You're going to take it, right?" And I'm like, "No." Why not? Because I don't want to be in city management. I want to be in Parks and Recreation. I love Parks and Recreation. And she's like, "So, do you feel like you're good at what you do?" And I said, "Yeah, I feel like I'm one of the best at what I do. I feel like I'm really good at what I do as a Parks and Rec director." And she says, "Why do you think that is? Why do you think you're a better Parks and Rec director than other Parks and Rec directors?" And I said, "Well, I think it's because I'm passionate about Parks and Recreation." So she just says, "Oh, so you think you like playgrounds and trees and grass more than other Parks and Rec directors?" And that obviously made me think, no, I don't think I like it more. I don't think I'm more passionate than other Parks and Rec. So why do you think you're good at it? Why do you feel like you're good at what you do? If it's not passion. And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And she's like, "Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why you're good at what you do. It's because you love people. And it doesn't matter if you're doing this in a setting of Parks and Recreation, or if you're doing it in a setting of assistant city manager, neighborhood services, development services, public work, police, fire. It's all about the people. And what we do as a profession, we're not at the grass business, and we're not in the tree business, and we're not in the playground business. We're in the people business. And that's what local government's about. It's about the people we work with. It's about the people we serve. It's about the people that we contract with to get things done. It's about people. And if we can view people as people, and if we can love people, we're going to be successful no matter what role we're in. And so to me, that's what keeps me going, is that I'm not the assistant city manager. I'm not in city management. I'm in people. And when I have tough decisions to make, I have a leadership philosophy that I've written, and I've spoken on this before, and elements of a leadership philosophy and what goes into a leadership philosophy. But it's a short document with several bullet points, 6 or 7 bullet points, basically of what I believe leadership is to me, right? And so when I have a difficult time or a difficult conversation or a difficult choice to make, I'll make sure that I read that document, because I'm reminding myself that, hey, this is what you believe, and the decisions you make need to be in alignment with what you believe. And nothing on that leadership philosophy says anything about parks or trees or playgrounds or swings or slides. It's all about how I view people, or how I want to view people. And so I think that's the key, is when I'm stuck or I'm struggling with, maybe something that's a difficult assignment that I've been given, I just have to lean back on that I'm not in this position because I know a lot about government finance. And right now I supervise our finance department. So I don't know a lot about government finance. So for me, it's about the people that we work with and work for.
I absolutely love the way that you just put that. And I'm going to kind of like put it in perspective to what led me to kind of think about going down that path, because there's no secret. I've talked to Tom, I've talked to Shane about this. Like we've had several conversations about, next steps in our careers, and whether it's, towards city management, and some people are all for it. Some people may not be into that. I saw a job post probably a year and a half ago, and it was for a city manager, and they took it, and I've seen a lot of things done similar to this and since then. And it was, do you love leading a team? Do you love strategic planning? Do you have a vision for what you would build in a larger organization, and all these different things? And it's like, it wasn't tied to Park and Rec, even though that's what I love. And just like you said, that you love that and you're passionate about it, but it's right. It's about the people. And if you can lead a team of Park and Rec professionals in all the different divisions within Park and Rec, and that's what, kind of leading into working genius, what like brings you happiness and brings you joy, then, why wouldn't you want to pursue that on a different level that would still have that bigger impact, if not the biggest impact possible? So I loved everything you said, and I love the way you explained it, because like you said, I don't have a background on trees and playgrounds and grass, but it's part of the field that we do, and that's why we love what we do, is that it's so broad and there's so many different impacts that we have. But it is about the people at the end of the day.
But not to poo-poo all that.
Yes, you want to.
Some departments feel less creative and less outward facing for sure. Finance is usually not outward facing, right? And they can get very utilitarian. And so, how does a creative person like Jason Mangum, who made a career off really creative programs and events, paper push government finance? Like, that's the part I've always had some sort of trouble with is that we all, as directors, have admitted the worst thing about being a Parks and Rec director is you can constantly get another step away from the reason we got into this industry, because we were all people, and we love doing programs and events and serving people. And as you become a director, you get less away from all the fun stuff. And the only time you interact with the person is when they're upset, unless it's an event. So ACM is even a step further, but now it's middle management in some ways. So, or top level management. And so I think that's the hurdle.
Yeah. So that's, I think sometimes when we come up in a Parks and Recreation, especially in a recreation standpoint, we look at innovation as only one thing, and that's innovative programming, right? Something that's new and creative that people can do. But when we take that and we again step back from the tapestry, innovation, innovative problem solving, innovative ways to fund, different challenges that we have. We have every city's got unlimited needs with limited resources, so we can be innovative in the way we look at partnerships. We can be innovative in the way that we look at the challenges that we have. We can be innovative in the way we create policy and procedures. So innovation doesn't have to just be in things that we program for the public. We can be innovative in the way that we gain public input. We can be innovative in the way that we put out public information. All of these things go across the board. Yeah, there's typically one way to build a road. Yeah, there's typically one way to build a sidewalk, but is there more than one way to communicate what we're doing to the public? Is there more than one way to fund those projects? Can we be innovative in funding sources and with other local government agencies and things like that? And the answer is yes. I can't be in city management because I can't be innovative. We take a step back and we look at the whole picture. It's like, yeah, we can be innovative. We can be innovative in all kinds of different things, especially as we look at ways to solve the problems that we've been given, right? Because that's what we do. We solve problems.
So, and I think innovation, when we're building off the working genius concept, I think I's and D's make such great city managers, right? If you have I's and you have D's in your strength profile, I think it makes a great city manager. In fact, I got to roll out working genius to all of our directors and above, and I got to see what our ACMs and deputy city managers have as leadership strengths and frustrations. And I know Jason's geniuses and frustrations. And I see innovation, I see the D with discernment a lot in that. What I don't see a lot among the small sample size that I've looked at is W's. There's not a lot of wondering when you get to the top level. There is a lot of, let's get the fish, let's put them in the barrel, I'll load the trigger and I'll make that decision. Let's shoot it, let's go. But I don't know. I sometimes wonder how much better government would be when we would wonder about the problem more than solve the problem. Jason and I worked together, and all of our frustrations over the years and all the times the door slammed shut were probably due to me wondering out loud and Jason saying, just jump. It's a good enough plan. Let's move forward, And so I think, me personally, when I think of city management role, I wonder about my wonder and how that would manifest itself in those roles. So I know why I don't think I would be good at it.
A big part of that would be, who do you put around you, right? So, I mean, you want all the working geniuses around you. We might have a city manager who's not a galvanizer, but you need a galvanizer in your city management team, someone that can stand up in front of a group, someone that can sell a bond to the public, somebody that can, be excited about the things that we're doing in the city and get that engagement with the community. But that's the thing. It's about the team that you put together. And that's the beauty of the working genius if we're talking about that. The cool thing about Parks and Recreation is, and why I think more Parks and Recreation professionals need to be in city management, is because if you're a Parks and Recreation director, you're dealing with infrastructure because you're building parks. And with that comes drainage and parking and, everything that goes into it. You understand the contracting process. You understand the construction process. You're dealing with people, right? And you're trying to provide services to everybody, right? We do everything from toddler programs to senior programs and everything in between. So the fact that what Parks and Rec professionals do makes it so we're constantly looking at so many different variables, and that's what you have to do in city management. You're constantly looking at all the different variables and how it affects the residents and other people in the staff. And I know there's not a huge amount of city managers that came up from the Parks and Recreation side. I think there needs to be more.
I feel like we're getting towards that, though. There's more that I've seen transition in the last 5 years than I can remember 10 years ago.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'd say the same thing, 5 years.
Yeah, I think that's really neat. I think it's great. And I want to go back to what Shane was saying, that maybe you don't see a lot of city managers that are wanderers, but I would also argue to what you said, Jason, is that you would hope that that's what's around your team, because as a city manager, you have so many folks that are reporting to you. And I would want, as a city manager, if I was sitting in that role, knowing my working geniuses, I would want the wanderer to be under me that would be able to come to me with these ideas so that I can diagnose them and kind of discern them to some degree.
But you want them in Parks and
versus the
Rec.
other way around.
You probably don't want them. You probably don't want you want your blues working in human resources. You want your creative folks working in Parks and Rec. You want your ETs working in finance, right? You don't want an ET Park and Rec professional and a really creative finance person. That's probably going to get you audited and in trouble.
I would look at it and say, like, having a very creative person in finance would be amazing. Like, that would be a goal, because then you have different means for the, untraditional ways to either bring in revenue or seek sponsorship or speak, or seek different alternative funding strategies, as opposed to just the traditional, we're going to collect our taxes, we're going to collect our revenue fees, permits, and then go from there. There's so many different ways out there. And the creativity piece, like, there's not a department I can think of that would be hindered by someone that's creative.
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, you can have someone whose working geniuses I don't think that it's typecast by the job you do, right? And you can go in any direction with that. Jay, you made a really great point there.
Yeah, and if you're familiar with working genius, every job is a 6-letter job.
Sure.
Every job is a 6-letter job. So you need all 6 letters on your team, because it doesn't matter. There's things in finance or there's things in HR that require, wondering and innovation and discerning and everything in between. So you need to understand city management is also a 6-letter job.
But outside of the working genius, but in the worlds of like creativity and some of the types of people that thrive in those environments, those aren't always 8 to 5 people, right? Like I know that was one of the things that I frustrated Jason about, is I did stare at a wall sometimes, and I was doing the absurd at times. When Jason first got there, he was like, "We're not a t-shirt company, Shane. We're a Parks and Rec department," And I think he understood why I cared about t-shirts and the impact the t-shirts had on the community. But at first, I think it took a little time to see some of that. But I don't think I could ever work in an 8 to 5 job and always be dressed up. And there's some part of that just feels restricting and confining to me. And you can't have a city manager wandering at noon every day, or a finance director for that much. It doesn't seem like those jobs lend themselves to that as much as a job in Parks and Rec, where I can still be here at 7:00 at night and programmings are still going on at second night. I got a call last night about a gate not being open. I was still in the office, so I just ran over and opened the gate. That's a little tougher at finance. Call a finance person at 7:00. You're not going to get a hold of them until the next day. Some of those jobs tend to find different profiles in them. I get that there's wondering in there, but you have someone that also likes numbers and likes the confinement of some of those processes and restrictions. And you don't see creative people living in those spaces as much, even though there's creative processes in finance. I get it.
Well, since you mentioned t-shirts, I just got to ask Jason, have you ever met anyone that's more passionate about t-shirts than Shane Mize?
Well, I appreciate the t-shirts. As a matter of fact, in the spare room of one of the rooms of my house, on one of the beds, I have a quilt made up of all my t-shirts from when I was a programmer. So cut up and made into a quilt from Arizona and Michigan, and so I'm a big fan of the t-shirts. I do like it. I do see the value of it. But no, I don't think I've ever met anyone as passionate about t-shirts as Shane is. But that's great. That's what makes Shane Shane.
Oh, trust me, I love it. I finally got him to send me one for the first time in asking for 10 years.
The only problem I have is we made this really cool, slightly inappropriate t-shirt, and it was 100% my idea. And he takes claim for it, the whole thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
My
It's my idea.
My idea. For a good time call.
Bull.
Hmm.
I actually think I have one here in my office. Let me see.
If it happens in my office in a brainstorming session, it becomes my idea.
No, I'm telling you. Anyway.
So
I have here.
as you look for that, I have a question for you, and you answered you had a great answer earlier when you talked about perception of a job you're doing. So I would argue that you're going to be really great at what you do, kind of like your wife said, how you're really looking at the job that you're doing. And you had earlier said, I want to be the best damn Parks and Rec director in the planet, right? I would argue your mindset is probably the same for that city manager. I want to be the best assistant city manager, best city manager, right? And so that perception of just wanting to be the best. Can you elaborate, maybe focusing more on Parks and Rec, kind of going back to that hat that you still wear, but where you were wearing more focused beforehand? What does that mean? How can you give advice to anybody, not just a director, in Parks and Rec to be the best damn Parks and Rec professional they can be?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, and I think it just comes down to motivation. What motivates me is excellence. I want to be the best. Not that I'm competitive. I don't necessarily want to be better than the neighboring city or than a different city.
There's some competition in there.
But really, it's just about being the best. But it's not necessarily about what they're doing and being better than what they're doing. It's just about being the best programs, the best customer service for our residents, right? I want our residents to feel like they have the best parks. I want our residents to feel like they have the best programs, the best opportunities, the best rec center, the cleanest, the most creative, the most innovative for our residents. That's what I'm motivated by. And so there's probably nothing that drives me more insane than people that are just satisfied with the status quo. I want to see new, different, innovative. I'm a why not person. Hey, Jason, what do you think about this? Yeah, let's give it a shot. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work. Because if we're just safe all the time, we're never going to do anything great. As a matter of fact, when we are putting together our KPIs, our key performance indicators in here in Missouri City, one of the things that a lot of cities will put as something they track is the number of recreation programs that reach the minimum to make the program, right? So that the program can go. You have to have a minimum number of registrations, and that's a very common KPI. And I was very adamant. Shane and I had this conversation. We can't be measuring that, because then all that's going to do is, if people know they're going to be they're measured on things making. Well, then they're only going to program safe things, and we don't want that. We don't want safe. We want new and innovative, and we want things to be a little bit crazy, and we want that ruckus, because you're going to fail a lot more when you do it, but you're also going to find something that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Almost being comfortable, being unsatisfied with status quo, right? Like we're striving for more. That's really good advice for anybody out there who wants to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I have no respect for the status quo. But quick, I got a question for you, Jason, and we haven't talked to anyone about this in the past, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it a little bit. It's the coaching tree, essentially, of all of us as we continue to matriculate in this field and we grow people under us, and you see those people go out. I know that I don't know all your coaching tree as far as directors, but I know that the person that at one time I think replaced you, and Novi is still the director there, and then TW has become a director, and I'm a director, and Kevin Brown's a director, and Danielle could be a director if she wanted to, but each of those people have different profiles, right? Like, I'm a totally different person than Kevin. for example, or Danielle, or any of them, I guess. And so and it's satisfying to look out for me, even to see the folks that have worked under me and to see that they're doing good now. I enjoy seeing what Kelsey's doing in College Station, and I'll claim Kevin because I hired him and oversaw him for a week and a half. But, how do you grow your coaching tree, and how cool is it to pour into people individually and see them flourish in other spots?
It is cool. I think one of the things that I do whenever I have somebody that, I think has potential is I'll call them in from the very beginning and say, hey, what are your goals? What do you want? Let me help you get there. And if someone says, I want to be a director, and we're going to help them get there. But it's also being able to understand what they see and then what you see for them as well. There's a quote by Henry Ford that said, if you would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses.
Right.
So it's being able to say, okay, this is what you want, but this is what I see, right? And this goes not just with people, but with programs and park design and everything else. You ask people what they want, they're only gonna tell you what they know.
Right.
And so being able to kind of see a little bit further down the road, see the potential, and help steer them in that direction is, it takes time, but it's something that I find a lot of fulfillment in. Is trying to get to know them as people, as real people with strengths and weaknesses, but also anxieties and fears and frustrations, and then being able to help them see some of those things in themselves and get them to where they want to go. Now, eventually, I don't make the steps for them, right? They achieve, they work, they're the ones that put the things into action. But I love working with people that have those desires to, like, real desires, not just the lip service. Yeah, I want to be a director someday. Okay, well, but the people that you see that are actually doing the things, the extra things to be the best so that they can make it to the next level.
I want to ask you a question kind of on that same context in a way is about Capra. So kind of taking it to the next level, taking it to be the best you possibly can be. We've talked a little bit through different episodes on Capra. I know you've been heavily involved in a lot of different roles, one being lead visitors, and been on a lot of reviews. I'm on a volunteer committee for the commission, and we're seeking more volunteers, as we usually are. If someone's listening to this that is maybe starting to learn about Capra or doesn't know much about it, what would you say to them to pique their interest and why it's important to get involved or become a volunteer?
Well, the whole reason that I got involved in Capra in the first place stems from my desire to be the best. And, when I became a Parks and Recreation director, I didn't know how to be the best. So if I want to be the best and I don't know how to be the best, I got to find a resource to help get me there. And some of that is finding mentors and the right people to talk to. But some of it is also looking at what are the established best practices in your field that you can achieve and help you get to that journey of being the best. Now, do I think that if you become Capra accredited, they do say you're the best of the best, right? Only if you live it, right? So for me, that's how I got involved in Capra. And if people have the desire to be the best, it's a perfect start to becoming the best, because you have standards that are best practices that, if implemented and lived, are going to help create results in your community and in your department that help us get to where we want to be. I've been on lots of visits, as you said, and I've seen agencies that have gone through the process of checking the 154 boxes and then not talking about it for the next 4 years. And they're like, oh, crud, we have reaccreditation coming up in a year. We better do this again. And then I've seen agencies that have lived it, who every day live the best practices. When we were going through the Capra accreditation process and we were creating policies and procedures and plans, and I remember something came up and I immediately thought, hey, we should create a policy or procedure around this. And one of the people that was in the room when I mentioned this, they asked, is that a standard? Is that one of the Capra standards? And I said, that's not the point, right? The point is that, that we do what works for this city and what we need. And we have identified that we need a policy or procedure around this item or around this issue. We're going to do it. And that's what Capra helped teach me, is that it's not just, check off the boxes and be done. It's a mindset of becoming the best. And that's a great start. And I would never lead someone on to believe that if you become CAPRA accredited, that's all you need to do. I don't think you need to become CAPRA accredited to be among the best, but it is a great start to putting things in place to being one of the best Parks and Rec departments in the country.
Another thing I'll take credit for is I was a huge advocate for Jason being a big CAPRA fan.
Oh man, don't
Couldn't even get that out. Let's
just say we got really serious about it the day Shane left.
That's right. One of my clues was that Jason was a great speaker, but if you hadn't heard him in a session, you'd heard him somewhere else. I don't know if y'all picked up on it now, but he's emceed the awards for a lot of NRPA award ceremonies over the years. And so not only are you involved in CAPRA, you've been quite involved with the awards process. So one thing I've always thought about the awards, but I know that it's me being a big wonder and, someone downstream would have to pull it off, but could the awards be better? Is there a way that we could do the awards need a 2.0?
That's something that we actually talk about every year on the awards committee.
Oh, I'm sure y'all do. Yeah.
When I was on the awards committee, I spent 5 years on that committee. One of the things that we looked at regularly was, does this fit? Does this work? Does this really reflect the things that, illustrate what's best of our industry? There's a lot of, as anyone that's ever worked on an awards committee, there's a lot of reading and grading and metrics. And I remember one of the first years I was on there, an agency got an award for innovation and innovative program. And I overheard somebody in the audience saying, how's that innovative? We've been doing that for years, right? And innovative doesn't ever mean, first to do it. It means, how has this program been innovative in your community? So sometimes it's getting the message out of what some of the things mean. The awards, I think, is something that will continue to evolve. It'll continue to grow. As we have changed as an industry in the past. I would say we saw one of the biggest changes as an industry in Parks and Recreation happened around COVID because I think people started seeing Parks and Rec as more of an essential service. And as we have things like that help change our industry, then everything about our industry is going to change. CAPRA is going to change. There's a huge change coming out with CAPRA. We can't just sit status quo and think that everything's great in this industry. And that's the cool thing about those that are volunteering on their state and national, whether it's conference committees or awards committees or CAPRA committees or the board of directors. These are people that are constantly looking at how do we make sure that these organizations meet the needs of the members of this industry, and this industry is constantly changing. So yes to that question with awards, but also yes to virtually every aspect of what we do in this industry.
We're getting to our round robin section of this podcast, and these questions are supposed to be quick, although they rarely are. And they're only supposed to be non-work related, although sometimes they are still work related.
Never said that.
No,
we try to get to know them.
No,
like we ask
just
food.
made
Food's
that up.
not work.
It's not a rule.
Yes,
I said rarely.
No,
that's not what you said. Actually,
you didn't say that. Go back to the tape.
You actually said you said they're meant to be non-work related.
They are.
Wait,
never ever.
We
talked about.
always say to get to know them better. This is outside of work. Blah blah blah. That's how we always phrase this stuff.
Either way, we record this, so we can go back and find out what you said if you indeed did press record.
I did press record, and I got stick from Oklahoma
yesterday
when Tom and I were on the podcast thing for the state of Oklahoma. They gave me stick for not recording. So
yeah,
we have at least 2 listeners.
Yes.
Mitchell and Jason.
2 more.
Yeah, for sure. So if you could go back to, I don't know, 18 or 22-year-old pivotal time in your life, Jason Mangum, and give yourself some advice, what would it be? And I guess it could be to these little terrorists here I share a podcast with. Apparently it can be work related if you'd like, or it could just be life related.
Can I guess? Can I guess one? Is it maybe I just shouldn't have hired that Shane Mize?
He inherited me.
Oh,
He could have
First thing I
fired
thought
me.
of.
should have
He
got
coulda-
rid of him then.
He could have fired me, but he didn't hire me. No.
Shouldn't have promoted him.
If I could go back and tell myself something, I'd say go be an attorney and sue cities because I know how. I'm just kidding.
Your brother does the patent law, right?
Yeah, he does intellectual property. Yeah, he does.
He's coming after me for all my T-shirt designs that I've been stealing.
No, we checked on that. They're all legal. They're okay. they're parodies. We're good. Boy, that's a tough one. I guess I would probably say that don't always be so safe, right? I think there was a time in my career or my life where I just felt like I had to do the thing that was safe. And so, take a risk. I mean, that's actually how I ended up in government and I'm glad I did, right? But I knew that there was pay and benefits and retirement and all this thing. And I just felt secure in that. Not that I regret doing what I'm doing, because I don't, but I just think that was a mindset that I had at that time, was what's the safe route. And so I would say, you don't always have to do the safe thing, like take more risks. Yeah.
Of that.
Okay. On the lighter side, or let's go back to baseball. And
Oh,
so
it's not work related?
This is not work related. No, but I do
right,
have a
it's
work
not.
related question. All right. So baseball. I'm a big fan. I have not nearly traveled as many stadiums as you. However, just your opinions. I would like you to give me your favorites on the top stadium in these three categories: best atmosphere, stadium design, and food.
Oh,
I'd say they were rarely quick.
easy. Okay.
It is. It's
So,
gonna be a quick one.
Best design, Pittsburgh by far. Going to see a game in Pittsburgh is something that every baseball fan should do. The setting is incredible. Not only do you have the water behind the stadium, but you have the skyline in the city, the bridges.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I'll go see a game in Pittsburgh any chance I have. So best stadium experience overall, design is definitely Pittsburgh. Atmosphere is St. Louis, and those fans it's a baseball city.
Yeah.
And those fans are knowledgeable baseball fans, and it's a great atmosphere. I remember I was at a game there one time, and I was there for a series. So I was sitting different places in the stadium throughout the series. And this stadium, this time I want to sit real high to kind of get the view of the arch and the downtown and all that. And I remember I was way up in the 400 level, and just in front of me and to the right of me was this little old lady who was probably in her 70s or 80s, and she had her scorebook and she was keeping score. And I just thought, that's cool. You just don't see that.
Yeah.
So St. Louis has definitely the best fans, probably the most intense as far as atmosphere though. This year I was in Baltimore, and I got to see Philadelphia and the Orioles play. And that was probably the best non-playoff atmosphere I've ever been to at a baseball game. Both teams were in first place. They're both, incredibly talented teams, and they're also only like 2 hours apart. So you had a lot of Phillies fans there.
Sure.
And so that Baltimore Phillies game was probably the coolest atmosphere that I've ever been in at a baseball game. So that's kind of a tie. And then food, I'm gonna also give it a tie. Milwaukee has great food, brats and cheese curds and all that. And then San Francisco, great food. Both of those, I think, have incredible culinary options. And definitely, if I could go back to any stadium for the food, it would be one of those two.
That's great. I'd add to the first couple you said, the atmosphere. I've never been to St. Louis, but you see highlights. Their fans are extremely, you said, knowledgeable. They're very gracious also to the opposing teams. They recognize when greatness is happening, even if it's happening versus them. And for Pittsburgh, PNC, it's still called PNC Park?
Yeah.
So I've been there, beautiful stadium to your point. And hey, if you can go see a Paul Skeens game nowadays, that'd be a little bonus too.
Absolutely would be a bonus. It was funny when I first went to Washington Park, very similar time, the pitcher's name was Strasburg.
Strasburg.
And I remember being able to see him pitch when he was in his rookie year. And I just remember thinking how filthy his stuff was. And it was so good.
Yeah. For me, and I haven't been to as many, I love the design of Baltimore. Camden Yards it's just a beautiful park.
It is. It's a fantastic park. That there's one small flaw, and this is just me being picky, is the concourse. The main level concourse is closed off. So I enjoy a ballpark where I can be walking around the concourse and be looking and seeing the game, where in Baltimore, they just have the tunnels and it's all closed off because they have vendors on both sides. And that's also a design flaw to the Busch Stadium in St. Louis. They've done the same thing, and so they can get more vendors. It's not as open on that main concourse, which I'm a fan of. But yeah, it's a great stadium. Camden Yards, beautiful.
Man, sounds like you've got another career path if you ever wanted to. Stadium design.
Shoot, there's my what I would tell my 18-year-old self, right?
There you go.
Go design stadiums and parks, and that would, yeah, that'd be incredible.
Putting the baseball side of things to the side, what city did you visit when you were visiting all these stadiums that just became a favorite of yours? But not including any reason for baseball, just visiting the city in general.
Yeah, boy, that's a tough one. Is that, every city's so unique. I mean, you can try to compare Washington, D.C. and San Diego, both incredible cities for totally different reasons.
Yeah.
But something that probably surprised me, or I would love to go back to, well, New York City is a fantastic city, but I would love to go back to Toronto. Toronto's such a cool city, super diverse, a huge melting pot. And so I would say of all the cities, where I kind of felt like I didn't get to spend enough time here, I'd probably say Toronto's a fantastic city. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very vibrant.
Yeah.
Can you add to that question? And this one is Parks and Rec work related. So Shane, if I'm breaking the rules, I apologize, but sorry, not sorry.
You'll get a full written report afterwards.
So, Jason, we talked about the theme of being the best you can be, and aside from Missouri City, where have you drawn inspiration Parks and Rec from? So we like to do that every once in a while. Throw a shout out to another organization or agency out there that's doing great things.
I guess it depends on what we're talking about. When I look at park design, I'm going to look at the big ones, right? I'm going to look to see what Chicago is doing, or what New York is doing. I look at the Olmsted parks, and some of those things when I'm looking at park design. But that's a totally different level, right? That's not that's not the same level of where I work as a assistant city manager in a suburb with 83,000 residents. So, I look at a lot of the park districts in Illinois when I was there, just because they have all kinds of money. In Michigan, I was the director of a city called Novi, and I love seeing what they're continuing to do. They have a lot of really great, innovative park designs and some things that they've done that I really enjoyed following them. Here in Texas, I look to see what Shane's doing, because he's gonna do some things that are innovative. I think you guys have had Stacy Naya on before. What she's doing up in Louisville is great. Yeah, I look at a variety of things depending on if I'm looking at park design or recreation. You want to see the coolest rec center you've ever seen? Hobbs, New Mexico. The core in Hobbs, New Mexico is probably the coolest rec center that I've ever seen in my entire life. And so I try to pull that inspiration from wherever I can find it. Parks and Rec folks are funny. We're the only ones that are, on vacation. We're taking pictures of restrooms because somebody's done something kind of cool with a bathroom or a trash can or something like that. I like to pull that inspiration from wherever I can.
So Jason's got a whole litter of kids. That was something we bonded over pretty quickly. But other than your oldest, Reese, I think for the most part now, y'all been in Texas long enough. Most of those kiddos and even yourself may consider, most of your family may consider yourself Texans at this point, at least adopted in some way. So I don't know if you would have thought that when you first moved here. What was it, 10 years ago or whatever?
8 years ago. Yeah.
8 years ago. So what has been the most surprising in a good way thing that you have grown to love about the great state of Texas and your time here?
Yeah, so people that know me well know that I kind of came to Texas kicking and screaming. I really had no desire to live in Texas. Same thing with some of my kids. But I've had this conversation with you a couple of times. I think one of the things that I have learned to love about Texas is the mindset of the people, especially the people that have lived here most of their lives. Texas, the landscape of Texas, it's hot, right? In the summer, it's hot outside right now. Nobody should be able to live here. I mean, it's just, but there's people that came here and not only lived, but have thrived. And I think that's where that Texas pride comes from, where the rest of the world finds it super annoying. I'm able to see like, oh, that's why they're so proud of, because they've done some incredible things in this state and really had no business doing those things. Houston specifically, the culture, the vibrancy of the culture here in Houston, it's an incredibly diverse area. It does name an ethnic food. I can find the best of it here in Houston. And I love that about the Houston area. I love the fact that, my kids get on a bus. I mean, they don't ride the bus, but my kids get on a bus and there's kids from all over the world that are going to schools there. So I really like that about Texas. But really, I mean, if you're talking about what is the one thing, it's me, right? It's Texas barbecue. Let's be honest, right? Okay. Yeah. So that's fair. It's Texas barbecue, and that'll keep me here for until I retire and longer. So
we've enjoyed a lot of barbecue together for sure.
Yes, we have.
All right, so I'm sure you've got some great things to be doing with your day, and I hope we haven't taken up too much time, but I have to ask. One, you can't butter them up. One frustration while working with a Shane Mize.
Plenty. How long do you have?
I mean, I know mine.
It was the wonder. It was, and Shane has told this story to me to remind me. I don't remember what some programs going on, and it was like, well, what about this or what about this? What about this? And I think my response was, what if a meteorite falls in the middle of the program? Like, who cares?
Exactly your response. What if a hole opens up and swallows this whole? I think was the response.
Like, we just can't what if everything for the rest of our lives. And so that and I never thought I was, that was one of my frustrations until, Shane kind of pulled that out of me. And I'm just like, oh gosh, I guess it's true. And it's the same way with anything. It's just like, well, what about this or what about this? And I'm just not programmed to think about those things or even, and I'm not a discerner, so I can't even poke holes in it, right? Like, I'm just like,
as big of a wonderer as I am, he's almost that big in his frustration. And the first time he took the Working Genius, he reached out to me and he was like, I'm surprised my wonder was my worst. I was like, you're surprised? I could have told you that. That was the everything we've ever had. Anytime we ever got cross with the conversation, it was because I was wanting to talk about it more, think about it more, pull it back upstream. And Jason's like, let's just go. Let's hop. Let's jump. Let's do this. Yeah.
I feel that, Jason. That is why Shane and I are constantly bickering, because my working frustrations are his geniuses. So, but a similar context to Tom's question, you could have just one word to describe your time working with Shane. What is that one word?
Fun.
Oh,
fun. We had a good time. I mean, okay. I don't know if Shane's ever told you this, but like anytime someone did something stupid and we caught it on camera, he's got a file of all those like all the security footage. We would find it and we would record it, and Shane would keep it just so that we could blackmail
if we were having a bad day, we just bring everybody in, just play them.
Yeah.
So, Jason, do you have any footage of something he did that's stupid that you can share with us?
No, unfortunately, I didn't keep him. He was the keeper of all those videos.
That's not fair.
But no, it's not. But it was. We have some very, very funny videos.
I did have to call into to the EOC and admit that I flooded out a car in a hurricane.
Yeah, well, you're sitting on top of the car by the time they came and rescued you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He definitely drove it through some high water and didn't make it out.
Well,
Good
dude,
stuff.
this has been amazing. Thank you so much for the time.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been a blast, and you know, I look up to all three of you. I've had the chance to get to know you all over the last, I guess it's been about 7 or 8 years, and I really enjoyed this time. So
Awesome, buddy. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
on.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. This was great.
all right. Thanks, guys.
You take
See ya.
care.
All right,
Yeah.
bye.
Nice. Great work,
Man,
Shane. That
that
was a
was
great
awesome.
pull. Yeah. I've
That was
had
a lot of fun.
I wasn't kidding too. Like that conversation that we had about the city manager, he gave me so much time, so much more information than I even dreamed of talking about. So he's always someone you can call on.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's cool.
Jason's unique in my career because my previous director had left. I stepped in and did it in an interim capacity for a long time, interviewed, and was all but offered that job. A new city manager came in, and the new city manager said, "We're not going to offer it to you. We're going to post it." And, you know, anyone in that situation could probably understand. I was a bit salty about, you know, I did it for a year and a half. I did it what I thought fairly well. They're going to repost it nationally. And Jason came in, and that was probably a tough situation, obviously, for Jason to come in. He was great and pivotal for my career. I am not the park and rec professional I am today if I didn't have Jason the time I had him and still have him, that I can reach out to him
Yeah.
on a Tuesday night and say,
Yeah.
what do you think about this? And I don't call a lot of people a lot. And I've talked about this on the podcast. It's tough for people to understand me well enough to really give me the advice I'm really seeking, because I'm a pretty outside the box person. And so I've gotten myself into a spot that's tough for me to believe someone can help me out of. But Jason's one of those guys that knows me, knows my intentions, and knows why I probably am in those spots, and he can help me out of them. And he has been a mentor of mine, and is a good friend, someone that I can call and talk to about non-work related things as well. I'm fortunate that our career paths crossed. It was really cool to have him on today, for sure.
That was awesome. That was a really great conversation.
Yeah, it went really quick. I looked up and I was like, oh wow, we're already like an hour in. So
Yeah. Yeah, I took a bunch of notes on some of the quotes that he had pretty much, just rattling them off. Just like you said, you can have him read you a grocery list and he makes it sound really, really great and eloquent. Yeah, I enjoyed having him. I'm glad that he has put some perspective out there for individuals, including myself, on what that transition could be
Sure.
like. And I would say, yeah, there's, hopefully we have this discussion soon and people, I didn't want to bring it up with Jason, but we've been talking to city manager podcast, Joe Turner, and that's exactly one of the questions he had asked us was, would parks and rec professionals make good city managers? I think Jason's pretty much wrote the book on that, right? In a
Yeah.
short period of time.
Absolutely. Well, boys, until next time, thanks for joining. See you, fellas.
Cool. See ya.
Bye, everyone.